All right, ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing in this beautiful afternoon? Are you guys having a good time today? Yes. All right, everyone. It's now time to turn on your cameras and welcome back once again here at the Global MUN. I really hope you're all having a wonderful afternoon. It's Friday already, weekend coming up, some time to rest for you guys, and kicking off the weekend with some great talk today with Mr. Carlos Valerin. Carlos, how are you doing today?
Hi everyone, I'm doing very well. How are you guys?
All right. How are you guys? All good? Can we get a thumbs up from you? Okay, I see some reactions going around. Very good. All right, everyone. Okay, so today it's our first global talk at the Global MUN 2022. This global talk will be everything about digital economies and answering the question whether finance is dope or not. So just to get started, let me hand the microphone to Carlos. Carlos, the room is entirely yours.
All right, guys. So first of all, I'm going to share my screen. So let me just do that for really quickly. Let me see. Where is it? 1 second. I can't find it. So first and foremost, how's everyone doing? All good? I guess I have people from all around, right? Is that right? Yeah, what nationalities do we have here? Can anyone tell me? I want
Argentina.
Honduras, Argentina.
Mexico.
All right. Okay, cool. So a lot of Latin America, yeah? Okay, great, wonderful. Now, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sharing my screen. So I'll be talking a little bit about finance and if it's hot or not. And I want you guys to be actively participants. So don't be shy. I'm going to ask Mao to help me call on people, right? Because I won't be able to. But basically, this is what we're going to do. Today, we're going to go over, is finance hot or dope or not, right? Because to be honest with you guys, when I was your age, when I was in school, finance was, boring out of my mind. I mean, I was terrible at math, right? So actually in my school, we had low, medium, and high levels of math. So depending on your ability with numbers, you would be classified into one of those three elements, right? And as you may believe, I was always in low, right? So I always had this pressure from my dad, and he would tell me, Carlos, you have to be good at math because math rules and runs the world. And I just couldn't make it. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you will probably feel identified with that, right? Because math is a tough subject. But the fact of the matter is that math will help you out throughout your life. And I'm going to try to convince you otherwise that finance is actually hot. Or maybe not, right? So to start it off, to kick it off, I want to ask a question to everyone here. I want to know how many people in the world don't have a bank account. I want 3 answers from the crowd. So, floor is yours.
All right, so Vanessa?
I'm not sure, but I think more than a half.
More than a half?
Yeah.
So you're saying that around 3 billion people in the world do not have a bank account?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right, good. That's a lot of people. Are you sure about that? All right, cool. All right, who's next?
Let's see, Agus?
I think I would go for a similar number, maybe like 1.2 billions or 2 billion people for
2
like
billion.
underdeveloped countries. Yeah, let's go for 2 billion.
Okay, 2 billion. Third person.
All right, let's bring on the third person, guys. Who else wants to give out their catch? If not, we're going to go with okay, let's have Salva.
I would go with 4 billion.
4 billion. Oh, wow. So let me just make a recap with this. You said 3 billion, Vanessa, 2 billion, August, and 4 billion, Salva, right? Okay, cool. All right. We're going to answer that in a while. but it's good that you guys have this in your mind. So what are we going to talk about? What's this whole thing about? Let's just talk about, first and foremost, I'll go over who I am so that you have confidence that what I'm speaking, I know from experience or that I have studied it, right? Hopefully you'll be pleased. Number two, I'm going to talk about traditional banking, right? And I'm going to ask a few questions. So I need you guys to be participative, right? Today, I need you guys talking, asking, whatever. Everything you need to know that I know, I will answer. If I don't know, I'll tell you what I know best and probably answer to you in another moment. Number three, digital finance, which is where we're heading in the world, right? And maybe we've been a little bit late to the show, as every other industry in the world has already moved on to digital, right? And we're still a little bit behind. And last but not least, we're going to have a debate, right? You guys and me about what's going to happen next, because I'm sure you have strong opinions. I have strong opinions as well, and we're going to go over that. Is everyone okay with that? Are we all good? Yes? Cool. All right. So who am I? I am this guy. My name is Carlos Valerin. You probably read it. I'm an amateur boxer. So by age 15, I was a little bit on the chubby side. My cousin told me, Carlos, you have to go and do some workout. And he said the best workout there is boxer, right? Is boxing. So I started out boxing, had 2 amateur fight nights, won one, lost the other one. The reason why I didn't pursue boxing is because I came home with a black eye and my mom said, there is no way you're doing that again, right? Little did she know I did it again, and I won the next fight, so that was pretty cool. So I'm an amateur athlete. I'm always doing workouts and stuff. Number 2, I'm an advertising and marketing major. And so you guys might think, why is an advertising and marketing major talking to me about finance, right? Does anyone have that doubt? Yeah? Right? Maybe you should have someone from finance talk to you about finance, right? All right, so fact of the matter is that serendipitously, I started working at a bank when I was 20 years old. I am 33 now, so that's 13 years in the industry. And the reason why I was hired at a bank was because the boss that hired me, the person that hired me, had a great eye for specific talents, right? So he would see what you're good at, and he would say, all right, so for example, Vanessa is very good at, selling, which is my case, and talking in public. And so maybe if I just teach him a little bit about the financial part of it, he'll be a great salesman for financial products. And that's how I became an FX sales trader for over 10 years. Now, who here knows what an FX sales trader is? Anyone?
We see some reactions in the public, most of no's.
No one knows?
It seems like no. Well, Vanessa has her hand up.
I'm not sure, but I think that, for example, when you put some investments into the, I don't know how to say it, Bolsa de Valores.
Okay. All right.
But probably you make that money becomes bigger because of you invest in other entities.
Or less, right? I can also lose. So that's very good, Vanessa. Thank you for your participation. Yes, a trader is a person who dedicates themselves to buying and selling commodities mainly, right? Or stocks or securities, right? Now, if you don't know any of the words that I'm saying, raise your hand and I'll be very happy to explain it to you. Now, fact of the matter is, what I do for a living is I buy stuff from one person and I sell it to another person. Now, who here knows what FX is? No one?
Seems like no one knows.
All right, so I'm going to tell you what it is. That means foreign exchange. Does anyone know what foreign exchange is? Yes? Teodelina, can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, it's like money from other countries, like for us, for example, the United States dollar and something like that.
Okay, all right. Where are you from?
Argentina.
Argentina. All right, so Argentina has peso, right? Right. So, for example, if I'm sorry.
No, I was saying yes.
Okay. So if I want to go, like for example, in my case, I'm from Costa Rica, right? So if I want to go off to Argentina, what I have to do is I have to buy dollars, right, with my colones, which is the Costa Rican currency. I have to buy dollars with my colones, and then I have to pass those dollars to Argentinian pesos, right? So in that procedure, I lose money twice, right? Because now I have to pass my money, my colones, to dollars. The bank will charge me on that. And then I'll have to pass it from dollars to pesos, and the bank will charge me again. So off the get-go, going to El Calafate, I'm going to lose money, right? Before I even enjoy, a nice glass of wine, or before I even enjoy un asado in Argentina, right? Churrasco. All right. So what I do is I do that, right? I take money from people before they actually go on holidays. No, I'm just kidding. What I do is I change money from one currency to the other one, and I do it at a large scale. So when a company has to go and pay the wages here in Costa Rica, but they don't produce anything here in Costa Rica, they produce it abroad, they'll probably change $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, and they call me to do it. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10, 12 years now. There's more to it than just buying and selling, but essentially that's what it is. And the reason why the person that hired me decided to go on with someone who was an advertising and marketing major was because at that point there was a global financial crisis. And given the global financial crisis, he said, I need someone who's a very good salesman, and I will teach him the math. And I learned math, and now I'd say I'm pretty good. And whatever I can't do, well, then Excel and my iPhone can do it for me, right? Now, what else am I doing? So today I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a founder. So I founded a fintech company, and we're going to go over what fintech is or means. And hopefully it will come out to market in the following 1 or 2 months. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a teacher for college students for investments and international finance. So again, why would a marketing major be a finance teacher? No one knows except me. And as I said, I am an entrepreneur, I'm a founder, but I also help people in consulting trying to boost their businesses by sales. So I'm a very good salesman, or at least I like to think so. So moving on. I want to know something. Who here has a bank account? Show of hands.
I do have.
Who said I do have?
It's me.
All right, Jahaira, tell me.
Telling me.
All right, can you tell me have you ever gone to the bank, to the actual bank?
Yep, I do.
Yeah, where are you from?
I am from Honduras.
Honduras. Okay, so Jahaira, when you go to the bank in Honduras, what's that experience like?
Well, it's like different in the different banks, because I have visited a lot of banks because of my grandma. She have like a different account of banks. So I have an account in one that is named Banco Atlántida. And I
Okay.
thought that this is like the most useful bank in the way that they proceed your necessity in a short time,
Okay.
and also they give you like how can I tell you, the resolutions you need. For example, last time I got like a problem with a code for the digital bank, and they helped me like in 15 minutes. And I had just the same problem in a bank that is in that way, and they solved that problem like in 2 days. So I have been like having different experiences, but I prefer Banco Atlántida if
All right.
having to choose.
So, and that's very good insight that you're telling me. But let me get this straight. Have you ever gone to the bank for fun?
For fun, I think when I was a child, because I love to be with my grandma and she's always doing that kind of things.
Okay. All right. But now, how old are you right now?
Sorry?
How old are you right now?
16 years old.
All right. So at 16 years old, have you ever gone to the bank because you want it to have fun because you want it to have a good time,
I don't think so.
right? So can everyone agree? Has anyone here gone to the bank for fun? At least in this age? No, right? So we can agree that banks are boring, yeah? What comes to mind when you think of a bank? Because what I thought when I was young was, all these old white guys, gray hair, sitting in a big conference room with suit and tie. And I thought to myself, that has to be the most boring job in the world. And then whenever I had to go to the bank, I had these problems that Jahaira has, where you have to sit in a line for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know if this happens in your countries. I'm pretty sure it does because it's a global system. But you go in, you click on a little screen, and they give you a ticket. Yeah? And that ticket has a letter and then a number beside it. And then you have to go and sit down and look at the screen. And the screen says T147, and you have K85. And you say, wow, all right, so who's next, right? And then, the teleprompter says T85, and you're like, well, I'm K85, right? And so all of a sudden, you have to spend 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes in the bank just sitting there. Now, bear in mind, you all have smartphones, right? So you guys can have Instagram, you can have TikTok, you can have Twitter, whatever you want while you're sitting, while you're waiting. Back when I was in school 10 years ago, we didn't have that. So we just had to sit there, and we had to sit down and watch whatever telenovela was on the screen, right? And it was very, very boring. I hated every minute of going to the bank. I hate every minute of going to the bank today, and I've been working in a bank for 13 years, right? So maybe not the greatest choice of career, maybe not. But I hate the bank itself so much that I decided to found a fintech which will essentially figure out or solve the problem of it being boring. Yeah? So the second thing that Jahaira said was that there was a bank, and I think it was BAC, which is a regional bank here in Central America. And she was saying that it took 2 days to figure out something, to fix a problem. Has anyone else had problems like that where you think, maybe the bank should be doing this much faster? Yeah? So we can conclude that banks are inefficient, right? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Right. What's the last thing that you believe is a problem with banking?
I see Santiago.
Probably that all is centralized.
Probably what?
That all that it's about banks, it's centralized. It takes I don't know how to explain, but the banks have the control of the totally of the money that is digital, so that makes harder and difficult to solve all the problems of all the people in the world.
All right.
Also, if I
Yeah.
might add something, also sometimes the banks have very high commissions, which also makes it sometimes hard to do certain transactions.
What is your name? Santiago.
Santiago.
Santiago, let me give you a round of applause. That is a very good contribution. Not to say that the others weren't, but this one, he hits on the nail with something, and it is that actually banks do charge a lot of commissions. Now, why do you believe banks charge commissions?
To profit from their service.
Yeah, but why are they high? I mean, wouldn't they just charge you what they need to profit rather than charging you a lot?
Maybe also because the bank can't lose like its total money.
Okay. Where are you from?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. All right, cool. Me too. All right, so when you go to a bank, so who here has been to New York, for example? All right, so if you've been to New York and you've been to Wall Street, which I'm guessing you would because it's a big, tourist attraction and you have the bull and everything. Those buildings, what are those buildings like? Who can tell me? Yeah, Delina?
They're like really modern and advanced, and they look like beautiful and make you want to work at a bank.
And they're huge,
So-
right?
Yeah, so I guess that's where the money goes.
Like the first time I went to a bank in the States, because Costa Rican banks are a little bit more humble, so to speak. But either way, the first time I walked into a big bank, I was, baffled. I couldn't even believe the fact that I was walking next to a column that was probably 5 or 6 meters tall, just the column. So I was literally, my brain works in money, right? So immediately I was thinking, oh my God, how much is this worth? Just this column. And so what you see is that there is a structure, not only physical, but also in software that is very big and very robust, which means that it's very expensive to maintain. And the reason why it's so expensive to maintain is because banks have been around for so long that they have grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. So it's like if every day you fed your dog a donut, right? And then by the time he's 6 months old, he'll probably want 2 donuts per day, and then 3 donuts per day, and then 4 donuts per day, and then 5 donuts per day, and then you have a very big, fat dog, and he can't even walk through the door anymore. So this is what happens with banks, and the problem with that is that every bank that we put, every locality that we put in a place is hard to make. It costs money, and so since it costs money, guess what? It's not universal, right? And this brings me back to the first question we had, which was, how many people don't have a bank account in the world? Now, let's just remember what you guys said. Vanessa said 3 billion. Salva said 4 billion. And August said 2 billion. So I want to see a show of hands. Who thinks Vanessa is correct?
So guys, raise your hand if you think Vanessa is correct. Let's see how many do we got. I see 1, 2, 3 hands raised.
Okay.
4. Interesting that not even Vanessa is voting for herself. Fair enough.
All right. So who thinks that August is right with 2 billion?
All right. So who says 2 billion? Raise your hand if you think it's 2 billion. I see 3 hands up.
Sorry, Mr.
4.
Point of information. Vanessa said 3 billion, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Vanessa
so
said
I
3
agree with her.
All right. We've got 5 hands up for the 2 billion.
Okay, so I'm gonna understand that 5 people said Vanessa was right with 3 billion. 5 people said that August was right with 2 billion, and then the remaining 11 said that Salva was right with 4 billion. Is that correct? Yes. All right. Cool. I want to ask you something. What grade do you need to pass in school?
I think it depends on the country, but in here it's like from a 65 to a 70%.
All right. So I'm going to be cool with you guys, and I'm going to say 65%. Yeah? Okay. So you're telling me those 5 people that voted for Vanessa, that 50% of the world doesn't have a bank account. Do you think that's acceptable? I mean, if I am the CEO of a bank and I come and I tell my shareholders, I've got 50% of the world as my customer, shouldn't they just say, well, what about the remaining 15% just to pass as if you were in school? Am I right? What about the 4 billion? Is that enough? Right? Because that's about 60 something percent, 65. So it's just about. In Costa Rica, we say, dejando los pelos en el alambre, which means basically we just made it through, right? But then, see, my friend August said 2 billion. So you are the person who was closest to the answer. Fact of the matter is only 1.7 billion people, not only, 1.7 billion people in the world do not have access to a bank account. That means that around 30% of the world does not have a bank account. And you guys might think, well, it's only Africa, right? Because that's what everyone says all the time. It's Africa. It's not only Africa. Actually, someone here said having people in, or with more people that don't have a bank account, right? So this is a global issue. This is not a African issue. It's a global issue. Now, why do you think people don't have bank accounts?
I see Santiago's hand up.
I'm not sure if I'm correct, but maybe like aside from maybe not having the resources or the infrastructure to have banks in their own like cities, which happens a lot of the times. Also, maybe because they're skeptical about that. However, that's like a very little fraction of the population. And maybe also because of the high commissions.
All right. So either Santiago is Googling my answers or he's spot on today. So one of the things that he said is actually one of the top 3 reasons, which is the place it's in, right? It's very far away. It's distance, because there's a lot of places in the rural economies that, you know, it just doesn't make sense to go so far to open up a bank account. Now, 2 other things. What's the most obvious one? The first and most important one.
We have Jahida's hand up.
Yeah, so first of all, I agree with Santiago, and let's think of my own experiences. And the majority of my family members does not have a bank account. They just mentioned that because of commissions. Imagine to have the same money they said in a wakal at home. So might be the same to save it in a bank that is like robbing you what you have like for a month, because they get like interest and they are not paying as well as you have then. So maybe this is one of the main reasons. Other one is like there are too many young people in the world that does not have like the requirements. And I know that there's like a bank account for children that parents open, but not every parent likes to do it. I know a lot of friends that have this bank account because they wanted and not because the parents wanted.
Right.
And
okay.
Yeah, that will be.
So one of the things that you're mentioning is in my family, a lot of people don't have a bank account, but you do, right? And this is actually number 3, right? So we've got number 2, number 3. Number 3 is some relative has a bank account, so we just manage with that one, right? There's one reason, and just so you know, the 4th one, which is costs and commissions, is actually the 4th. So it's not even in the top 3. So I want to ask you what the number 1 reason is, and it's really the most obvious one.
Let's hear it from August.
Well, no, you can, another person can go. I was gonna say like, well, the amount of information that people have to know about their banks, and most of people don't even know it.
That's not it. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you all, I mean, as you go, and I'm going to give it to 3 more people, but you have to say punctually what it is, right? Just 1-2 words. So Samuel, go ahead.
Okay, I think most people don't trust in banks. I
No,
heard
that's not it.
people.
So let's hear it out from Philly.
I think that maybe they are scared that if the bank goes bankrupt, they would lose all of their money.
No, that's not it. Vanessa.
Afraid of technology?
No. Salvador.
I would go with illegal money.
Legal money.
Illegal money.
Oh, illegal money. No, that's not it. Teodelina.
Ignorance.
No, that's not it. Santiago.
Perhaps a lack of knowledge in how to use the bank properly, like for
No.
example with a fondo de inversiones.
No. All right. The number 1 reason why there's a lot of people in the world that don't have access to a
May I
bank
mention
account.
something?
Yes, go ahead.
Is that I have a parent that is working at a bank, and she just told me last year that so many people tell them that they don't have a bank account because of losing the time.
Okay, so that's actually pretty interesting, and it's something that we're going to go into, but it's not one of the top reasons. The top reason worldwide is because people don't have enough money, and they just reckon, why am I going to open a bank account if I don't have the money to open it, right? So it doesn't really have to do with commissions. It doesn't have to do with the time. It has to do with the fact that they think that they don't have enough money to open a bank account. And that is the number one reason why bank accounts are not open. Now, everything else that you said, legal money or illegal money, time, no knowledge of finance, so on and so forth, all of those are very good and very valid. And I am sure that they add on to not having financial products. But the bank account, which is the simplest product there is mainly because of that. Now, let's go into digital finance, right? Because I did tell you that finance was cool, and all I've done so far is tell you how it's not. Is that correct? All right, so number one, who here can tell me what a fintech is? No one? No ideas? Yes, Mal.
Let's have August. Let's give him the chance.
Like what's fintech or what's digital finance?
No, it's fintech.
Oh no, I don't have any idea. I'm sorry.
All right, let's go with Mal then.
So fintech is financial technologies. It's a segment of business where basically you combine technology and finance to get something dope.
All right, very well. I think Santiago wanted to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just as August said, like e-finance or something like that. I thought about that finance tech, but Mouse stole it from me.
All right.
But that was just
Mal
like a
stole it
wild
from-
guess.
We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. All right. So fintech is, just as Mao said. Mao actually said it pretty spot on. It's technology applied to finance. So basically, it's companies that are being born right now, which use finance to actually, which use technology to make finance a little better, right? So any fintech company, they'll give you, a wide array of products and services, right? So they might give you some, they might give you all, probably they won't give you all, but we can talk about payments, right? So for example, probably you guys, the ones in the States, for example, right? In the States, you can Venmo people, which means that you can actually send money to them through an app, right? That's pretty cool, right? Because before, when you ordered pizza or something, you couldn't Venmo your friend. You had to give them, bills and coins. And that was a hassle because maybe it was, $15.37. So you had to give them $20 because that's all you had, right? So now you can actually do it very exact. Now, the second thing is exchanges, which is what I do. I exchange currencies, right? So we can do exchanges over applications, right? Or over a website. We can also invest, right? This is very important. Back in the day, if you wanted to invest in stocks in the States, you literally had to be in the States, or you had to make a long distance call. And a long distance call would be very expensive. So you had to be very sure of what you were doing. And then after that, you had to do a wire transfer, which will cost you tons of money just to move your money from Costa Rica, in my case, to the States, right? So investment has become much more simple with fintech. You can also have digital money, which is, I think that's something that's very interesting to people your age right now, which is cryptocurrency. And we're going to go through that in a minute. You can also do online banking, right? So Jahaira was saying that she went to the bank with her grandma because it was fun for her when she was young. It was fun for me to go with my grandpa because I spent time with him. The fact of the matter is right now, I don't want to go to the bank ever, right? So I try to do everything online. So I go into my application. She said back was very bad in Honduras. Back is actually pretty good in Costa Rica. And what I did was, I just paid off my credit card a minute before the presentation. I paid off my credit card just before coming in here. 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. 10 years ago, I would have had to take my lunchtime to go to the bank, sit down, do the queue, the little ticket that they give you, the T147, be on social media for an hour, walk up to the teller and tell him, hey, I want to pay my account. So now we have that, right? And then you have this thing called crowdfunding. Has anyone ever heard of that?
Yes, I have worked with that.
All right, cool. So we also have crowdfunding, right? And that is also part of fintech, right? So I'll give you an example of a fintech company, which I think is actually pretty cool. And I'm going to give you this one, and then I'm going to give you another one. But this one's called Betterment, right? Betterment is a company where you can invest your money in safe returns, right? You won't lose your money, but you can do it all from the web, right? And they will ask you a few questions, so they have simplified the whole process so that you just put in your money and you can go do whatever you want to do. You guys like to play, I don't know, probably some of you like to play PlayStation or Xbox or whatever. Well, you can do that while someone else handles your money, right? And then you'll get a return on that. So that's fintech. But the thing is, I have a question for you guys. I said that I just paid my account, my credit card, on an app from my bank. Does that mean that my bank is a fintech?
Yes.
Who said yes?
Me?
Are you sure about that?
I'm not sure, but I think so.
All right. We're going to keep it there. Santiago, you?
I think maybe it might not be because it's not entirely digital. Like the main focus of the bank is for it to be physical. It has been adapted to be digital, but in this case, like the main operations or the more complex operations need to be done on the bank.
Ooh, all right. So, Santiago, I mean, you're on a roll, right? You're on a roll here. And I have a fintech, so I just might take you up on an internship. All right. We're going to go to digital banks, and we're going to talk about what Santiago and Vanessa and Jahaira said a minute ago. So, if I have fintechs, are they digital banks or not?
Not really all the time. Like some applications are fintechs, like Ripio, are not quite like banks.
Right.
They just help you transact.
Okay, cool. Yeah, right. Because, for example, if we go with a fintech, which is much more common to everyone, which is PayPal, for example, right? Everyone knows what PayPal is. Yeah. Elon Musk, he made PayPal, then he sold it, then he made Tesla. Yeah. Everyone know what Tesla is? All right, cool. So PayPal is not a bank, right? Because it doesn't have the capabilities of a bank. It cannot loan you money, right? PayPal can help you transfer money. It can help you charge someone. It can help you do a lot of things, but it cannot loan you money. It cannot do the whole array of things that a bank can do. Now, bear in mind, a digital bank can help you with payments. A digital bank can pay you with exchanges. A digital bank can help you with online banking. Does anyone here know an example of a digital bank? I'll give you a clue. The biggest digital bank in the world is from Brazil, and it was founded by a Colombian in Brazil. Does anyone have any idea? Is anyone here from Brazil? No? Is anyone here from Colombia? No? Does anyone know the answer to this question?
I think Vanessa's hand is up.
Yep.
I'm not sure, but I have listened that probably, well, I have two answers. Probably cryptocurrencies can be centralized, but that could be very difficult. And I think that it's more impossible. But maybe it's like a totally digital bank. And the other option is that I have listened that China has created a digital currency, but I think that it's supported by the bank. So probably something like that.
Okay. All right. That's good. But the question is, bear in mind, the name of the biggest digital bank in the world right now. Does Jahaira know?
Well, I'm not sure, but I think it's the Bank of Itaú.
No. Why? Because Itaú, all right, so that's good. Is Itaú a digital bank or a regular bank? Is it what we saw at the beginning of traditional banking, or is it what we're looking at right now, digital finance?
I think so. It's traditional banking.
Traditional banking, right? Right.
I imagine
So
that
the biggest digital bank in the world is called Nubank. NU Bank. It's purple. If you Google it, you'll notice it. It's amazing. It was founded only 9 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, or 8 years ago, by this guy called Diego Vélez. He's only 40 years old right now, which, believe it or not, is young. And he founded this bank without having any banking experience, right? So that's actually pretty interesting because I said I was a marketing and advertising major, but I've worked in banks. This guy, he created the biggest digital bank in the world. He never worked a minute in a bank. How is that supposed to happen, right? Now, the difference between a digital bank or a fintech and a traditional bank is the same difference between a Tesla and a Toyota, which is what Santiago said, right? And that is that basically a Toyota is a car which has a computer built into it, whereas a Tesla is a computer that has a car built into it. So the fact of the matter is that when we have these disruptions, right, banks have a hard time catching up. Why do banks have a hard time catching up? Because they have invested so much money into their software, into their hardware, into their locals, right? We said that in New York, the banks were amazing, that they were beautiful, that they made you want to go into banking. But, you know, if you have to change your whole structure like that from the get-go, it cannot be done. I worked in a bank for 10 years. I worked for Citibank for 10 years. And every time I proposed something to change, it took around 2 years to make the change. 2 years, right? In 2 years' time, I think it was Jahaira, will be 18. 2 years is a long time. Whereas a fintech, because it's so small, it's much more flexible. They can make changes like that. We can adjust to what's happening. And the problem right now, or the situation that we have at hand, is that the world is changing faster than it ever has. Right? So I'll give you this piece of data. You know, a lot of people, they get frustrated because their parents or their grandparents don't know how to use the phone. Right? They don't know how to use the iPhone. The thing is that, for example, TVs, to get to 1 million people, it took them like 30 years for 1 million people to have them. So everyone had 30 years to adapt to it. Phones were just, the internet was just a matter of seconds, or not seconds, but probably it was about a year to get 1 million users. So the way this moves is very fast. You guys were born into it. Our grandparents weren't. That's why it's hard. So again, are we better off with digital banks or are we better off with traditional banks? Right? Because you guys might think it's better digital, but I'm sure your grandparents don't think so. Right? Some grandparents like to go to the bank. Some parents like to sit in line. Right? And last but not least, we're going to talk about crypto and blockchain. Now, who here knows what crypto and blockchain is?
I see Santiago's hand up and then August.
So basically, cryptocurrencies are like a type of digital currencies that use cryptography. So basically, they use the blockchain, which is like if you had a book or let's say, for example, this table where I'm taking notes, it has a lot of pages. So each one of these pages is a block, which contains like information about one transaction, and each transaction has like this identifier that is called the hash, and each block has the hash of the previous transaction. So basically, this makes it very secure because every computer used for crypto mining, which is basically just verifying transactions and gaining cryptocurrencies from it, it has an individual copy of that blockchain, which is always being updated. So if one person hacks the transaction to, like, I don't know, give himself money, he can't, it will be denied because he will only change it in one computer and that hash will change.
Okay.
And the
All right,
99% say.
let me stop you right there, just in the interest of moving on. But yes, what you said is correct, right? Now, what he's talking about, the blockchain, and he showed up his little paper, right, where he's taking notes. He called it a block, right? Traditionally, what we called that was a ledger. And so a ledger, what we did with a ledger was that we would write down everything that happened, right? So we would say, all right, so Vanessa took out $100. So I would put minus 100. And then I would say, Algus put in $2,000. So I would add $2,000. And then I would know not only the person that did that, but also how much is my balance at the end of the day. Now, what happens with blockchain? That it comes to disrupt and revolutionize this whole thing, right? It comes to make it more reliable. And the reason why it's more reliable is because if I did that by hand 50 years ago, or if I did it in Excel 20 years ago, then someone could come in and change it. So we had human error. The blockchain promises us that no one can do that. And therefore, what Santiago said is completely right, right? We believe that the blockchain is incorruptible. Now, what is crypto, right? Because he said blockchain, crypto is a digital currency based on the blockchain. Now, if you ask me, the most important or the most interesting piece of technology being added to the world today is actually blockchain, not crypto. Crypto is an effect of the blockchain, right? But then you have crypto and it's these digital currencies. And who can tell me what the logo that I put on the presentation is? Does anyone know? Let's give it to Luz, because Santiago and Vanessa have already participated.
Bitcoin logo?
Bitcoin. Now, do you know how much a Bitcoin is worth right now?
I think 60 million.
60 million. Oh, wow. No, that's not correct. Vanessa.
Well, it has decreased dramatically during this last 2 weeks, probably more. But I think like on 3 million. I'm not sure. But I know that it's like and a half. The last time that I bought some Bitcoin.
Okay, so I think she got stuck. Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know if it was my internet or yours, but I couldn't hear your answer. But for sake of time, I'll give you the answer myself. I'm sorry for everyone that's raising their hands. Bitcoin is around $30,000. I think it's actually below that, right? It's 28,000. But it had a high just 6 months ago that it was $65,000, right? Now I want to ask you this. Does anyone here have money? Does anyone here have, a bill in their hands right now? Yes, no, maybe. Do you have a credit card or a debit card?
A bill.
A bill or a card, whatever. Right? Okay, so Vanessa, you grab that card and you want to buy, a Coke and some chips, yeah? So you go to the bank, you go to the store and you pay with your card, right? Yeah? And in exchange, they give you your chips and your Coke, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Now, can you do that with Bitcoin?
In some countries, like El Salvador.
Yeah.
But it's not physically money. It's digital.
Exactly.
And there's not infrastructure for our countries, so
Right.
you can do it, for example, in Mexico.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this. One of the money has certain characteristics, right? One of the main ones is exchangeability, which means that I can exchange it for anything at any point in time, right? So the fact of the matter is that Bitcoin, although accepted in some places like Salvador, because everyone's heard about President Bukele and what he's doing, and some places in the US, some places in Canada, most places in the world do not have a regular market where they will accept Bitcoin, or for that matter, any cryptocurrency. So the store of value of Bitcoin right now is based 100% on speculation, which means that people believe that it will be worth more in the future. But there is actually no fundamental reason why a Bitcoin will be $60,000 or $30,000 or $100 worth. As a matter of fact, Warren Buffett, which is probably the world's best investor, he says he wouldn't even pay $25 for all the Bitcoin in the world because he sees absolutely zero value on Bitcoin, right? But then what are the benefits of Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, right? So for example, Teodelina, who's from Argentina, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have trouble exchanging your money, your pesos, to dollars, right? People in Venezuela have a really hard time exchanging their money, their Cordoba, no, they're not Cordobas, I can't remember with the currency, but they have a hard time exchanging their currency to dollars. But if you have a global currency, such as crypto, you don't even have to worry about the exchange you pay me. So if we recall my first example where I go off for a holiday in Argentina, I said I would lose money passing my money to dollars and then to pesos. I wouldn't have that, right? I would just be able to go abroad and pay with this digital currency. Problem with that is that it's not regulated. And so I can't remember the name of the person that said illegal money. The problem with cryptocurrency is that it has been known that it is associated with money laundering, drug dealing, and people dealing, right? So, for example, there's this illegal situation right now where people are being kidnapped so that they can take out their organs, right? And so that has been growing in the years. And the fact of the matter is that cryptocurrencies, due to the blockchain, you can trace back to the user, but you cannot trace back to who that belongs to. So it's not as simple as in a bank where you can identify exactly where the money is coming from. And if you don't know where the money is coming from, then who's there to say that your whole economy is not based on drug money or on money laundering, right? So when we look at the whole thing, we think, how does this tie out? What's coming next? What is it, right? Are we going to have digital banks that take crypto? Are we going to have fintechs that specialize in specific things? Are we going to have the Uber of banking? Are we going to have the Netflix of banking? We don't know. Are we going to have government-backed currencies, right? Which means that basically we grab the Honduras lempira, right? And we say, all right, Honduras, now we're going to have the crypto lempira, which means you can just use it anywhere. There won't be any fees. There won't be anything. But you win, right? So I'm going to give these two answers to you guys because we're running short on time. And it's, what are the benefits of digital finance, of e-commerce? There's more access, right? The first thing that we said is that 1.7 billion people in the world don't have access to banks. If we just do this, here in Costa Rica, just so you know, here in Costa Rica, 1.675 phones are available per person. There are more phone lines in Costa Rica than there are people. Every phone line nowadays has access to the internet, at least most of them here in Costa Rica, which means everyone has access to the web. So if I make a digital bank, wouldn't they would no longer have that issue of not being able to get there because it's very far away. Number two, control. Yes or no, maybe. That's a bit tricky because I can have, as a user, more control. So for example, now I pay with Apple Pay, right? So I go to the store, I say I want the chips and Coke that Vanessa bought, and I click on my phone, I get it next to the reader, and they charge me. And I see it immediately on my screen, on my phone. So I have more control over what I'm spending, right? I can see it every single minute, which means I have more visibility and more flexibility, right? Which means that if I have my friends over and we have a pizza party, I can get them to pay me on the spot and they won't owe me money. Or maybe I have a big debt, right? Maybe I have to pay someone and I need people to lend me money. So I call my friends, I tell them, hey, can you transfer me? Can you wire me some money? And they say, yeah, sure, no problem. They do it, right? Which helps circulate the economy. Now, don't get me wrong, having debts is it's not essentially good, but if you need it, then you have that. And then, of course, one of the main things all of you said is fees, right? Right now, when I go to the bank and I sit down for like an hour and I watch the screen and I'm very bored out of my mind, at the end of the day, they tell me, all right, so here's your, whatever your transaction, but we'll charge you $2 for this. But fintechs, we're trying to disrupt that. So for example, my company, we're not going to charge any fees, no fees at all. If you have an account and have $0 in it, we don't charge you for not having anything because it doesn't cost us anything because our whole infrastructure was built on the web, right? Whereas a bank, they still have to pay for those big columns when you're walking into New York Wall Street. We don't have that because we're so much more lean. So just as I started off going to boxing because I wanted to, get thinner, be less on my chubby side, this is what fintech does. Fintech and digital finance is like putting a bank on a treadmill. It's like putting a bank in a CrossFit gym, right? It makes it fitter, which means that it gives you better results. Now, what are the downsides to this? If I have more people coming into the market, how am I sure about where their money's coming from? Do I have the capacity to handle all of this excess, money, or do I have the capacity to handle all of this excess information? Do I, or maybe not? Because bear in mind, I worked for a bank that had 200 years of existence. 200 years. You guys are 16. 200 years. So how can a company that's 1 year old, 2 years old, 9 years old at best handle all this information? Because the banks already have it, most of it. They're just adding on to everything they already had. So my question to you is finance hot or not? Who can tell me? No one?
What do you mean by hot?
Is it interesting? Is it fun? Or is it boring, like the white guys with the gray hair, the suit and tie, sitting in a big conference table? Is it fun? Or is it, just boring?
I see Vanessa's hand up.
Yes, for sure it's fun because there's another world that we know, and also because of the increasing of technology becomes better and we can get more information. And probably if we look to the future, it will be like, as you said, more hot.
Okay, All right, cool. So I know Teodelina wants to answer.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's especially when it comes to digital economies, because there's something intriguing and mysterious about this, and maybe like getting the chance to explore this and exploit its potential would be really interesting.
Okay. All right, Santiago.
I think that right now it's like at a medium point because still like that physical banks and the high commissions and inefficiencies are like still there.
But we need them, right?
Yeah,
we need the banks.
we still need them, but I think that if the e-commerce and digital economies and also like Bitcoin and all of that are regulated so that we can prevent maybe that criminal money or illegal money that we were talking about, and that they can be better introduced into the society, I think it might make it fun because for something very specific, you could go to the bank, but most basic transactions or even more complex ones in the future could be done digitally, which normally has more efficiency, right? So, like right now, we're on a middle point, but I think on the future, like the future is digital. So it might
Okay.
get more
All right.
fun.
All right, Angelica.
I think it's definitely hot, like you said, because I like to investigate things. So I was just thinking about if I know how the economy, how this all works, I will be able to investigate all of the companies and how do they invest, how do they do their things and analyze their economy. And for me, I like math and I like that kind of stuff. I think that is very interesting. Also, if I didn't like it, I will still have the opportunity to learn about it.
Okay, very well, guys. That was great answers. So one of the things that I was telling Santiago while he was speaking is that we actually need banks, right? So our economies are based on banks, and our governments need the economy to be based on banks, right? So some people out there just say, you know, maybe we should just switch to crypto right away. We cannot do that. We can't, right? Because everyone's savings. Now remember this, bear in mind, 1.7 billion people don't have a bank account, but the remaining 4 billion, 4.3 billion, they do. Their money's sitting there. So if all of a sudden we just change our heart and say, you know, we're just going to go with crypto, we can have a catastrophe in the world, right? And then bear in mind, a lot of people have been wiped out with Bitcoin and every other crypto there is, right? Because a lot of people went into the hype and they said, you know, I'm going to buy crypto because it's at 60,000. It's going to be at 150,000 for sure. How can you be sure? How can you be sure if there's no store of value? There is absolutely nothing that tells me that crypto or Bitcoin in this case is actually worth 60,000, 35,000. So if you guys have ever thought about investing in crypto, be sure to invest money you're willing to spend, money you're willing to lose. Because just as you might make it to 150, it might go to zero. If you ask me, my professional analysis, and I might be right and I might be wrong, this is very cool about finance and investing, is that no one, although it's numbers, no one is really correct, right? I believe that Bitcoin will drop to 11,000 and then it'll bounce. That's my technical analysis. That's my analysis on that. But I'm not sure if that's going to happen, right? This is just like, I love soccer. I love football, right? Everyone, you see it on Monday morning. Everyone knows what the score should have been. Everyone knows what the coach should have done, right? You know, like on Saturday, on Sunday, everyone's going to be saying what Ancelotti should have done or what Klopp should have done to make them Champions League winners. Everyone will know. Everyone will say, he shouldn't have put in this guy. But do they know beforehand? They don't. And that's what happens in finance. We don't know what's going to happen. All I can tell you is that we are most certainly moving to digital world. Uber revolutionized how we transport each other. Netflix revolutionized how we watch movies or TV. Airbnb revolutionized how we go for holidays or to holidays. Spotify revolutionized how we listen to music. Nubank or Nubank in Brazil is changing how we do finance. Right? So bear in mind, the reason why finance has a lag between our industry and any other industry is because if you guys think that finance is hot, there is a very cold part of finance, which is regulation. And it is boring. It means that we have to comply with everything that the regulator tells us. And it takes time because the regulator has to be sure that whatever you're doing is legal. Right? Now, having said that, I saw a lot of people saying that finance was hot. So I'm going to take this moment, just a really quick second. I have an Instagram account, which I normally post information about sales, but I also post about finance, right? And I'm going to send it on the chat so you can look at it. And if you have LinkedIn, you guys are on the younger side, so I don't know if you have LinkedIn yet or not. But if you have LinkedIn, you can also follow me. I normally tweet or talk a lot about the Costa Rican US dollar and colon situation because that's what I do for a living right now. But whenever I have a chance, I'll talk to you about Bitcoin. I'll talk to you about investments. I'll talk to you about a wide array of things. And so you guys, you can follow. Now, once again, in my opinion, finance is dope. Finance is cool. And it is what makes the world go round. I went into business because I wanted to make money. Have I made money or not? Maybe, maybe not, because we don't know what might happen tomorrow, and I invest money, right? So I might lose it all, I might win it all, or I just might be, a sound advisor or not. So the whole presentation, the whole thing why I wanted to give this to you, and the reason why I made this the way I did, is because I wanted to ask you, I wanted to make you doubt on whether or not finance is hot or not. I want you to go home tonight or go to bed tonight because you're already home and think, should I listen to grandma or grandpa who likes to go to the bank and sit in line? Or should I listen to my gut and the people on YouTube who tell me Bitcoin and crypto and Ethereum or whatever is the future and that's the only thing that will happen? Or is there a midpoint? Is Itaú a digital bank? Is Venmo a fintech or not? The whole thing about this class or this talk is to make you have more doubts now than you had before. Because the fact of the matter is, if you have doubts, then you will be more likely to find a solution for it. And I believe you guys can. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Huge round of applause for Carlos right there, please. Amazing, amazing talk. I don't know about you, but I do think finance is dope. Finance is amazing. Quite an interesting subject. Salva, were you going to say something?
Yes, so I had a question because there are some cryptocurrencies which, well, what usually happens is that they start new projects. Like what I heard, like I'm not sure if they did it or not, a couple of months ago, like the cryptocurrency Cardano, it was trying to implement smart contracts. And when these currencies are trying to do this type of projects, is it like predictable to see like there's going to be hype and the price is going up? So like when you know that there's going to be a project like that, should you invest? And it's like, is it still as risky or is it not quite like that?
Okay, so crypto is still a very risky market, right? So it's always going to be risky. I mean, for now. to answer your question, I don't know the digital currency you're telling me about, but what I have seen technically is that most of these currencies, when issued, they have a hype, right? And what we call that in finance is called a pump and dump, which means that there's people in the market that pump the value of the stock or the currency. And then when they see that a lot of people have invested in it, they had to sell all of that, right? So they've got a big chunk of it. And what they do is they dump it, which means they just say, all right, so now I'm going to sell out this whole thing. And when they do that, they make a lot of money. You lose on it because investing is a zero-sum game. What I win, you lose. What you win, I lose, right? So, yes, if they have some sort of agenda where they are managing other parts of the economy, where they're affecting other parts of the economy, then most definitely the risk will be lower, but it will still be risky, right? So just keep that in mind. Whatever you invest into a cryptocurrency, my best advice is you should be willing to lose it. Because right now, no one really knows. It's just like tomorrow's game. No one knows if Liverpool is going to win or if Real Madrid is going to win.
All right, guys. So we're already over time with this talk. So thank you so much. If you have any more questions, please direct them to Carlos's Instagram. You have it right there. You can interact, trade, have fun with Carlos all through Instagram. And I mean trading information. Please do not try to put all your money into something that you still don't really know about. All right. Great financial advice from Carlos as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful time. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye, everyone.